Welcome to the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Raj, and I'm joined by my co-host and two guys who have more arm strength than Kirk Cousins, Fab and Nacc. Week 13 is already in the books. It's very sad. The season is dwindling down. So we'll be recapping some of the action with our winners and losers today. And afterwards, it's time to move on to Week 14 with our always popular love-hate segment, where we'll outline the players and matchups we love and the ones we hate. And with a week before the fantasy playoffs, it'll be a key time to make some quick lineup decisions. And before we get into it, just a quick reminder, if you like our content, have benefited from our love hate, waiver wire, trade segments, whatever it is, do us one small favor: rate, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. You could find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Stay locked into those channels as usual. We'll have a ton of content and advice to take you through to week 14 with the fantasy playoffs fast approaching. And just some quick housekeeping: as the season is winding down, we'll be moving to one episode a week, focusing on our love hate episode and segment. However, we will still be having quite a bit of action in our waiver wire stashes and key pickups on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So stay locked in to those channels. But ever wonder where the player projections come from? Well, you don't have to anymore. Introducing Leakchamp, the easy to use tool that enables users to turn their player takes into rankings and projections. With in-depth analysis, in-depth analytics, injury analysis, and weekly floor and ceiling ranks, you'll never miss a beat this fantasy season. Download Leakchamp today from the App Store or Google Play. Also, check out their podcast, available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Nacc, please kick us off for the Week 13 winner.
Yeah, so it's going to be winners with an S. It's going to be QBs going nuclear in Week 13. 14 QBs went over 20 points in Week 13, which is insane. So it led to some very high scoring matchups. I don't know about you guys, but all my matchups throughout all my leagues were all high scoring. It was insane. Like, I've never seen scores like that, even in one QB leagues. In a 14-team one QB league, I had 178 points. So it was just,
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. The points are crazy this week. So some to highlight: Jaden Daniels, 31.6 points. He seems like he might be fully recovered from that rib injury. Looked really good on Sunday. Josh Allen, 30.42 points. He had a passing, rushing, and receiving TD. I think he's hands down my MVP on the season, and he now has more receiving touchdowns than McBride on the year, which is actually pretty surprising. Russell Wilson, 29.86 points. If you heard us last week on our love hate, I told you he would finish with a top five at his position. He actually finished third among QBs and fourth overall on the week. So hope you guys got him in your lineups. Caleb Williams, 29.14 points. I think that was his best game as a pro. And I think
Yeah.
his coach kind of screwed him at the end of the game with the clock management. I mean, he could have easily called a timeout himself as well. So I think there's some blame on him, but he looked really good on Thanksgiving, leading that comeback against the Lions. He had Lamar Jackson, 27.3738 points. And then special mention to Bryce Young, 24.64 points. That was also, I think, his best game as a pro. He looked really solid, and he's looked solid lately. And he actually leads the league in big time throws over the last 2 weeks with 9. So that's pretty surprising stat. So I guess if you're lucky to have one or in some cases two of these QBs, if you're in a two QB or super flex league, you probably won your week, and I think the playoffs are shaping up to have some high scoring affairs. Excuse me.
We'd be remiss not to mention Jameis Winston, who went off last night to 497 yards and I think 6 touchdowns, but 2 to the opposite team.
Yes.
Still, though, like that, yeah. But I agree with you, Nacc. It was a really good week for quarterbacks. Unfortunately, I didn't have a single one of them. That's okay. We're still gonna carry on with the, with the fantasy playoffs.
It's really good for Bryce too. I think did I not hear already that they said they're going to move forward with him next year.
That's like the rumor grapevine is what like people are saying, like they're gonna he's cemented himself. He's got six more or what, 5 more games left to
Mhm.
play before he's like cemented it. So unless there's a collapse
And-
coming,
yeah,
I,
and
I don't
man,
see I don't see how you don't come back to him next year. Like
that
there's no
Yeah,
point.
that Adam Thielen catch was
Insane.
beautiful.
insane.
Yeah.
I'm such a big fan of his. Fab, who do you have as your Week 13 winner?
Similar to Nacc, but for me, it's more like just sitting QBs for the win. It seems as if we all have to collectively relax when assuming that the future of a QB after a handful of games is already decided. Have to give props to Dave Canales and Shane Steichen for sitting the future of their franchises and help them reset, because you see how Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson have been performing since they've been benched. So specifically Bryce Young, Nacc touching a little bit right now, but I do want to dive in a little bit deeper to previous weeks in 2024. So since his benching in week 3, he came back in week 8. He's averaging 216 passing yards per game, 7 total touchdowns, 3 INTs, about 17 fantasy points per game. Compare that to the first 2 weeks of the year, 122 yards per game, no touchdowns, 3 INTs, 7 fantasy points per game. Compare that to 2023, 180 yards per game, 11 touchdowns, 10 INTs, and 11 fantasy points per game. So clearly, him sitting has done him a huge benefit, and you can see it already the way he's playing, just not the stat line, but also the tape as well. The Panthers have been playing really well, so it's been benefiting ridiculously. And also, same goes for Anthony Richardson too. Like, he started off hot in week 1 with the 29-point performance. Then he slowed down. He got injured. He came back. He stunk it up. Then he got benched. Then came back as a full-time starter in week 11. So for the last 3 games, a small sample size, but still, he's put up 22.4 fantasy points per game on average, 184 yards passing, 6 total touchdowns, 2 INTs, and he's averaging 47 rushing yards per game. You compare that to weeks 1 to 8 of this year, about 13 fantasy points per game, 160 passing yards, 4 total touchdowns, 7 INTs, and 40 rushing yards. So there's a big difference here too. If you look at from a microcosm, right, from one period of the year to another, and in both scenarios, you really have to give props to the head coaches, the organizations, and the QBs for bouncing back and taking the proper time to reset. Because when everyone said, well, all these guys are benched, okay, that's it. Oh, everyone thought they're going to be benched for the rest of the season. They're done. But they're playing like they're rejuvenated again. So I got to give props to the whole organizations on both ends over here for the Panthers and the Colts.
Yeah, and I think you got to give credit to the backup QBs too, like Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, especially Dalton. Like, you see him on the sidelines, he's really working with Bryce Young, and
He's a pro,
yeah,
man.
the story
Flacco
isn't
too.
done on these guys. Like,
No.
and Nacc, you always kind of keep us honest with this, but with rookie QBs, we're very, very quick to just be like, this guy's the guy, this guy's not the guy, this guy's already a bust. All these guys came from the same draft. It's not even close to being done, and we're seeing what CJ Stroud looks like. Even this past week didn't look great, and obviously this past year it hasn't been clean. The book is still out on which guy will be the best out of all of them. So I'm very happy for Bryce Young. He seems like a great kid, and I really liked him at Alabama, and obviously Anthony Richardson too. So we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year. Yeah, Nick.
3 years, man. That's the rule of thumb, and we always go back to Josh Allen, right? Did he not struggle the first 2 years? Did we all everyone thought this guy is nothing, they wasted a pick, he's done, and then he's come out year 3 and he hasn't looked back, right? So, I think, yeah, you hit it perfectly, Fab, on your mention. The only thing with AR is his completion percentage is still hovering at that 50% mark or lower in the past, since he's been back. I think he had one good game where he was a little bit higher, but he's still
He,
hovering at that 50% mark, which is a little
yeah,
bit worrisome in terms of not fantasy, a little worrisome in terms of franchise QB.
Yeah.
Like, he's still to me has ways to go. I'm not ready to call him a bust by any stretch, but it's the completion percentage that I'm worried about with him.
he's gonna be like Cam Newton. Cam Newton played 11 seasons. 3 out of Cam Newton's 11 seasons, he was above 60% completion percentage. He was only above 65% 1 year. 2 years actually, and those were kind of outlier years. Even
How
his
long did he play?
MVP 11, and even his MVP season, Newton was at 59.8. So I feel it's gonna be like he's never gonna be like a
That's
point
11
guard
years with the
stuff.
Panthers? Was that the Panthers? Because I don't really count the
New
New
England,
England stuff. Like, he just went there
the,
as a
the
backup
New
and then
England year, he was at 65.8 actually.
okay. Wow, okay.
Yeah. So
And that was when he was throwing the ball to
I'm
the
always gonna
ground.
see him as more of a deep shot guy. As long as he could hover close to 60%, I agree with you, Nacc. Like he has to get that up there. For me, my winner, I see Drake May and the Pats tight ends as very viable fantasy options. So the Patriots are actually fourth in the league in 12 personnel, one running back, two tight end usage. Don't look now, guys, but we might be seeing the second coming of Gronk and Aaron Hernandez
Here
with,
we go.
with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper.
Here we
Hopefully, it
go.
ends the right way though. But no, but seriously, look, both over the last 3 weeks are tight end 7 and tight end 9. So Henry has been targeted 8 or more times in 3 of his past 4 games, and Hooper has 2 TDs in the last 3 games and 4 catches and 4 targets in each of the past 2 games. So we know how they don't have as much depth on the wide receiver front. And it feels like the Pats over the past 3 to 4 years, they've been trying to figure out that kind of 2 tight end situation with either Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry. Looks like they kind of have something lately with Henry and Hooper. And obviously, not to mention Drake May. He's been the QB 19 in the past 3 weeks. That's very solid, very good for 2 QB super flex. He's averaging over 41 rushing yards per game. Overall, in terms of fantasy point total, he's above Herbert, Purdy, Stroud, and Mayfield over that 3 week stretch. Plus, if you look at the ancillary options, Ramondre Stevenson's at 21 touches to the last 3 games. And Antonio Gibson, I thought looked really, really good against the Colts. 7 carries, 62 yards, touchdown. Really nice cutting as well. So they do have a bye in week 14. They got the Cardinals, Bills, and Chargers. But in shallow and 2 QB leagues, I think May, Stevenson, and obviously both tight ends are definitely worth some looks down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but the Aaron Hernandez Gronk was a little bit out of left
Oh,
field for me.
come on, guys!
a
Seriously,
little bit, a little
Henry
bit.
Wait,
Cooper, guys, it's the next tight end duo, man. Come on,
so
nah,
I mean, you're
who's
talking
who out
about
of
one of the
curiosity?
best
Is
tight
Henry
ends
Gronk?
ever to play, and
Nacc, you didn't get
Is
the bit.
Henry is Henry Gronk or what?
I missed
I'm,
it.
I'm joking, man. I'm joking. It's more to say that it's like they brought
I
back the 2
agree.
tight end sets,
I
and I
agree.
think that's
I
what
agree.
works for them because right now the Pats need to go into this draft focusing on wide receiver. They haven't figured out the wide receiver position, and it's
And tight
led them
ends are
to
both vets, man. That's what
yeah, and
helps.
it's led them to continue to try to rely on the 2 tight end sets, which I think I watched a bit of that Pats Colts game, and it was working. It's been working with Henry and Hooper, so it was more to say that that's kind of the way they need to strategize to get the offense rolling now. Nacc, who is your first loser?
Yeah, first
Would be first.
loser of the week. It's going to be a team loser. Are we sure the Ravens are true contenders? Like, are we pumping the brakes a little bit? They've dropped 2 of their last 3 games to the Steelers and the Eagles, and they beat the Chargers. And now they sit 2.5 games behind the Steelers in the AFC North. The Steelers currently also hold a tiebreaker due to their win back in Week 11. And once again, Lamar Jackson has more passing attempts than Henry had rushing attempts in Week 13. So that recipe always spells failure. Henry has now not scored in 2 straight, and they're not in danger of missing the playoffs, but it's looking more and more likely that they're going to have to go on the road to face the Steelers, who've had their number over the past few years, and also the Bills. And both teams look much better than the Ravens right now. So, like, I don't know. Are we convinced Lamar can go into the playoffs and do it on the road and then have to even face, let's say, a Kansas City potentially in the AFC Championship at KC after potentially going into Pittsburgh and then into Buffalo? Um, I don't know. There's something fishy with this team right now, and it's not. I don't know.
It's the kicker.
Yeah,
Like
Well,
it's
that definitely doesn't help. That's
to
for
me it's the
sure.
kicker. Like
100%.
if the kicker he missed some kicks against Pittsburgh, right?
He's missed kicks every single game. I think
Pittsburgh and obviously the Philly
he has
game was
70. He has 70%. 70% on field goals this year.
yeah. Like
That's
that's why I'm
that's
not worried.
lowest in the NFL.
That's why
But
I'm not worried about anyone outside of Lamar and the rest of the team. I think the defense is still crap. But if somehow Justin Tucker gets back to what you were used to with Justin Tucker, I have way less worry about the Ravens.
they're also not getting into the end zone as much, right? Like that's what that means as well.
Yeah.
You're kicking field goals, and they're having trouble against the tougher teams, right? Like they're
Yeah, and that's the
usually
bigger
their
test.
usually their record
Yeah.
versus the NFC is like incredible, and the Eagles like took it to them. Yeah, 100%. The kicks make sense. Like the kicks matter for sure, but I don't know, man. There's something going up. 5 losses already. Like
It's
I
funny.
you're
I don't disagree. I think this also speaks to how much better the Eagles are than people might be actually giving them credit for them to take it to the Ravens the way that they did. Against the Steelers, are always going to struggle, but are they true contenders? No, I don't think so. I don't think they'll make it to the AFC Championship game. I don't think they'll be able to get out of their. I mean, they'll make the playoffs, but apart from that, like I don't see them having a very long stretch.
Who would they be slated to face right now, Nacc?
I think right now they'd be playing. I think they would be in because the Chargers are
You're in the
there, so
first
they're
wild
they're
card,
in
right?
sixth. They're in the second wild card. The
Second or
Chargers have
second, yeah.
overpassed them, so they're in the
Oh
second
yes,
wild
yes.
card, which means Buffalo. Buffalo would be there, so they would play probably Pittsburgh. Actually, they're slated to play in Pittsburgh on wild card weekend at this moment.
Yeah, barring an epic collapse, I feel like the division is Pittsburgh's to win. It's funny, like I think
They still
Lamar
have to play
was.
each other. They still have to play each other one more time, so that's obviously going to have huge implications. But
I had heard Lamar saying that his mom was telling him that he was
yeah,
missing some rushing opportunities, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he still
saw that.
ran 8 for 79.
yeah.
And to be fair, his rushing, he had that 16 attempt game, the first game against KC. He had a 14 attempt game against Baltimore. He hasn't had double digits since week 6. So maybe as a means to kind of sustain drives, he might have to go back to the rushing ability, which obviously would be great for his fantasy value. His fantasy value is already amazing anyways, and he's still in contention for the MVP. But I don't disagree with you, Nacc. I think there's something there as outside of just the kicking that they're gonna have to figure out for sure. Speaking of kicking, Fab, I think you love kickers. I don't know anyone
I
who
do.
who cares about kickers more, whether it's fantasy or non-fantasy than you.
When he
So
keeps one on IR, yeah.
yeah,
100%.
en plus, tell us about your loser this week, please.
Well, I got two actually. So I got two idiots and one is a kicker. So Aziz Al Shahir, is he the Vontez Burfict of our generation? On Sunday, the
Wow,
Houston
good
Texans
comparison.
linebacker delivered a nasty helmet-to-helmet hit to Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence that resulted in a brawl and resulted in an immediate suspension for the linebacker. Well, he was ejected from the game, excuse me. Lawrence is now in concussion protocol and expected to miss a few games, but this isn't Al Shahir's first offense. He's gone after Caleb Williams along the sideline, which also resulted in a scuffle where he ended up headbutting Chicago offensive lineman Darnell Wright, and threw a punch to Roscoe Johnson. He went after Pollard in a late hit on the sidelines, and he also went after Brady in 2022 as well.
The choke on Brady. That's
The choke on Brady, yeah.
Oh my God, he
So
was already this. I thought this guy was man.
when
He
I
was
started
around when
going through
Brady was there.
the litany of all the things that he did, I was like, yeah, this guy's Vontez Burfict of our generation. Like it,
Well, he's been fined. I think like 6 or 7
6.
times already
Yeah.
this year
yeah,
for infractions too.
yeah. So he's also been suspended for 3 games. To be honest, it doesn't really have any implications from a fantasy perspective because it's not as if you're starting the Houston Texans anyways. But if you had Trevor Lawrence on your team and right now you're fighting for a playoff spot, then it sucks, like because this was a stupid hit and it could have been avoided or could have not even happened altogether, and you wouldn't have to deal
What
with QB carousel.
actually, Fab? Do you think Mac Jones is viable for the Jaguars if Lawrence is out?
Well, he played really well in relief when he went down. I think he threw 2 touchdowns and he had a decent showing. I don't know what his matchup is this week, so I can't really comment right off the
Titans.
bat. Titans are not a horrible matchup. It's not a great
He
matchup.
gets
It's
he
somewhere in
gets
the
the
middle.
Titans, then Jets, Raiders, Jaguars. Sorry. Titans, Jets, Raiders, Titans, Colts.
Titans, Jets, Raiders, Titans, Colts. So, I mean, he's a
Like
low end QB2.
like bye weeks are going to be done. Like, do you really
Yeah,
need
like
it?
he's a
Like,
low end QB2. Like if you have to start Mac Jones, like what have you been doing the whole season
yeah,
with your team? Quite frankly,
Oh yeah,
because I
dude.
think anyone
um,
who's listening to this, when people are going to be listening to this, waivers will be done. You'd be hard pressed to think that I would think Mac Jones will still be available. If you're really in a pinch this week, maybe it could be interesting against the Titans, but we'll have to see. You had a second loser.
So the idiot kicker, Nacc alluded to him a little bit right now, but kickers are people too, but Justin Tucker might be that idiot kicker that Peyton Manning was talking about. 4 straight games of single-digit fantasy points after averaging 6.6 points per game and just 10. Sorry, how did I write this? He's averaging 6.6 points per game and just under 10 points all season. And he's averaging his lowest field goal percentage and extra point percentage of his career at 70% and 95% respectively. So extra points, 95%, not good. Like you need to be in the 99 percentile most of the time. Last year, for comparison, he was at 86.5% for field goals and 98% for extra points. So Ravens' 5 losses this year are for a combined 22 points this season, which is worth the number of missed kicks that Justin Tucker missed in the Ravens' 5 losses. So all the kicks that he missed in those 5 losses would tally up to 22 points, which equates to the losses for the Ravens, which is ridiculous.
So what should the Ravens do? Like
you can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
I've heard that they should put him on, try to put him on IR while he rests.
No.
You can't do anything.
You can't. The problem is he's going to be gone too late into the season, and like, what are you gonna? You're gonna grab a kicker off the streets for the playoffs? Like right now, they have to say like the bye came at a perfect time. Like, don't go on a beach somewhere, kick some footballs. You know what I mean? Like get in.
That's a good point. Though. The bye did come at a very good time for them too.
Like they need it. He's got to clear his head. Maybe you know what? Maybe he does need to go on vacation. Maybe he just needs to not think about football for a week or for the few days that he has off and cut. But yeah, it's like of course he's everyone cut him. Like he should be cut. But if this happened, if this was this bad, like into week 6, there's cuttable potential. He's the highest paid kicker. He's 35 years old. He's on the older side, so it's.
But not really. We've seen kickers Nick Folk. Nick Folk's like 45.
Yeah.
Like
some for sure. But he's
Morton
older.
Anderson kicked. He was like 47.
Adam Vinatieri kicked until he was like in his 40s too. Like kickers have a very long lifespan.
Vinatieri was when you saw him go downhill when he was kicking when he was older.
Yeah, but he was in his 40s though, is our point, right? He honestly, this drop off from last year is pretty legit. Like it's pretty precipitous. It's not a joke. Like he went from 86% down to 70%.
The yips, man.
Yeah,
like dude.
I think we've talked enough about kickers. We're gonna move on.
Robbie, he's your kicker. He's your kicker. You should start him. You get more points out of him on a bye.
And actually, you're an idiot kicker.
I am our idiot.
You are an idiot kicker. Your name on Bush League Huddle.
Somebody has to fight for the little guys. Okay.
Let's move on, Raj.
Yeah. For me, my loser, the season from hell continues for the 49ers. So obviously CMC, we saw what happened. He finished the season with 350 total yards and will be out for the season. This is, to me, Eddie Lacy, who had a 4 ADP back in 2015, I believe, level bust. Like, this is one of the bigger busts in a long time. Madden curse as well, too. Jordan Mason, surprisingly, on IR Monday afternoon. I was really surprised when I heard that out of the blue. Deebo Samuel has averaged just 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he's only been over 12 since week 6. To me, this is one of the biggest disappointments in the year because he's typically been really nice to nestle in for his rushing yards, obviously for his receiving as well. Obviously, the Brandon Ayuk torn ACL that happened, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago has been a big blow. Niners are 5-7. The defense has not carried them either, and they've dealt, obviously, with a ton of injuries as well. I'd say the only bright spots have been George Kittle and Juwan Jennings. Thankfully, they've been really nice. Especially Jennings has been a really nice bright spot on the team. But it just felt like the bad vibe started back in July with the Ayuk holdout, the Trent Williams holdout, the Purcell shooting, obviously the CMC injury as well. So I think it's I'm hoping Isaac Rendo, he has a really, really interesting speed, size combination. He has a ton of juice. He ran a 4.33 at the combine. So I think he could be a bright spot for them. He's been averaging 6 yards per carry, and he was really electric in the Thursday nighter versus Seattle. So it'll be exciting to see how he performs. But I mentioned it in our group chat. They have a big decision on Brock Purdy, the Brock Purdy contract. They don't have that luxury of the $800,000 cap hit. And I like Brock, but I just don't know if he's a force multiplier the way Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, Burrow I put Russell Wilson. I did not mean to put Russell Wilson in there. but
Rent free, baby. Rent free.
I was,
How is it rent
but
free when you mention him like every single podcast?
yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
probably why. But really, like he's not. I like Purdy. I'm not the like bash Purdy group, but I just don't know if he's gonna be that guy to elevate you when the rest of your team is injured. So they're gonna have a really interesting decision to make. I think they'll sign him, but I'd be curious to see what that number is.
but I think he's played his way out of that $60 million contract that everyone thought he was going to get, right? Like everyone thought he was going to be, everyone
That was
thought he was going to be
madness.
like the highest paid. Like he's not touching anywhere near that, right? Like I think you'd even be crazy to give him 50 a year on a multi-year deal.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really
It
tough.
I heard some analysts saying like he's going to accept 35 a year, and I just started laughing. I'm just like, I don't
No.
know where that comes from.
That's the golf number, right?
That's Baker Mayfield's number.
That's
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
Or even Mayfield. Yeah, Mayfield's making 35.
Yeah.
I think realistically, if you can get this guy at 45, you're happy. You're very happy.
I think that's a good sweet spot.
But there's gonna be a lot of cap casualties on that team. Like Debo is already being spoken of a cap casualty. They may have to also release George Kittle with his cap hit.
Man.
It's gonna depend.
No,
Look,
yeah,
man,
I
they
can't
just
see
paid
that
Ayuk.
happening, man.
Yeah, me too.
Ayuk's cap hit is gonna be through the roof next year, right? It's gonna be
Yeah.
over 30 because this year was
I have a
less.
quick question. Knowing what you know about Juwan Jennings, do you resign? Are you as aggressive in giving that contract to Brandon Ayuk, knowing what you know about Juwan Jennings?
Giving them
Giving
Sorry, say that
Ayuk the
again?
contract that he got. If you knew what you knew about Juwan Jennings,
Oh yeah, no, they would have never given him that.
around
yeah,
the
of course.
time
Yeah.
They
the
would have
holdout.
pushed him. They would have pushed him. They would have lowered the number and said, "Go to Pittsburgh. The
Yeah,
trade's there. We have the trade in place. Go to Pittsburgh." They would have. I think they would have done that. I don't think it would have dragged on as long as it did if they knew this information. Because
100%.
drafting Purcell, and then you could have lived with Debo being there, and you have $30 million more to play around with next year. So yeah, I think they would have let Ayuk go for sure.
Yeah, they're in trouble for next year. They really are.
even Juszczyk might be a guy. Like they might need to. There's a lot of core
There's
guys here that
of missing. There's a lot of parts that are going to be different next year. The window, as you said, is closed after this year.
looking like it. So those are our winners and losers for week 13. Now we'll move on to it was a pretty big injury list. Obviously, talked about CMC, who's out for the season with a PCL. Again, Jordan Mason, high ankle sprain on IR. Is it officially he's out for the season with the or I mean,
Well, it's 4 games, so you're
4
not
games
going to see
unless
him
they
in the
miss the
fantasy playoffs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Taysom Hill, that was really disappointing to hear that,
Yeah,
due
that
to
one
knee
sucks.
injury, he's out for the year. Rashad Bateman is dealing with a knee. Trevor Lawrence is concussed, likely to miss multiple weeks. And, at this stage, I'm wondering if they just don't shut it down. I think he had a shoulder injury as well.
They should, man.
They should really shut it down for him. Lad McConkey is dealing with a knee. He was in and out of the game against the Falcons, so that will be one to monitor. Fab, in case you want to give another shot at Quentin Johnston. Dallas Goedert is with his knee. He's week to week.
It's
And
actually pronounced Goddard.
Dallas Goedert. And Noah Brown, who's actually been pretty decent. Those second and third wide receivers for the Commanders. I was about to say as well the R word.
There is a lot of talk about that name changing very, very soon. Apparently,
there is Noah
Very
Brown
exciting.
and Dynami Brown have actually been really good for the Commanders. So it'll be interesting to see if Brown is able to recover from the rib injury. Week 14, another Byemageddon. We have the Ravens, the Broncos, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, and Washington Commanders on bye. Crazy. Another bye week. 6 teams on bye. So we'll have to be very careful with who you put into your lineups those days. In terms of our Week 13 love-hate record, we were a very, very strong 9-3 collectively, and season to date we are 80, 59, and 5. Fab, you went 2-2. You lost on Jordan Addison as a love, who had 9.4 points, and Caleb Williams, you had him as a hate. He had a pretty monster game with 29 fantasy points. You won with Jonathan Taylor as a love and James Conner as a hate. Nacc, big 4-0. You won on Bucky Irving and
Let's
Russell Wilson
go.
as big loves. And then on hates, Jackson Smith and Jigba and DeAndre Swift. You hit on those very well.
Should have
And
a top dog award every week.
now that you go 4-0, you want a top
Yeah,
dog
so
award? It's like,
how convenient.
Had to.
I did not too shabby as well, 3-1. My Jerry Judy call, I was very happy about that one.
That was big.
That was
Got-
That was
huge.
big.
got
Huge
some-
kudos. Huge
Got a bit
kudos
of
to
hate,
that.
not hate, but people questioning that on YouTube and in some of the Facebook groups, and I was very
Big
happy
kudos.
for those who listened to that.
Well, we got a lot of feedback from people on TikTok about how because of that call they won their week. So shout out to you, Raj. That was a great call.
Honestly,
that was a very
man,
gutsy
it
call.
makes I don't even have
looking
Jerry
back,
Judy.
it makes sense.
I don't have Jerry Judy in any leagues, and I was like just rooting for anyone who had them. So I'm very happy.
And it
to hear
was
that.
the best revenge game in history. I
Yep.
think it beat out
Yep.
Terrell Owens against the 49ers, right? I think it was with the Cowboys.
Nice. I also won on Brian Thomas, barely. Brian Thomas Jr., 18.7 points. And I won on my hate for Kirk Cousins, 5.10 points, an absolutely horrendous showing from him. I lost on Najee Harris, who had a fantastic game against the Bengals, 24.9 points. So again, 80, 59, and 5. That's a very, very good collective record that we have. So again, please listen to us. I think we kind of know what we're doing. Nacc, yeah, sometimes. Nacc, hit us off with your first love of the week.
Yeah, first love of the week for me is going to be Jakobi Meyers at the Buccaneers. So Myers has been averaging just over 15 PPR points per game without Devontae Adams this year. He's seen at least a 32% target share in 3 of his last 4 games. Yes, Brock Bowers is breaking records and remains the Raiders' top option. However, Meyers has still seen 26 targets over the last 2 games, which is insane, and scored 22.1 and 15.7 fantasy points respectively. So with 6 teams on bye, Meyers gets a Bucs defense, giving up the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and I think he's a must start in Week 14 and beyond if the targets with the targets he's currently seeing.
He's 100% a must start for the rest of the season. 100%. If you look at his playoff schedule, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans, all top 10 fantasy-friendly wide receiver defenses. He is a must-start, easy plug-in wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside for the rest of the season. If he's on your team and you're in the playoffs, you're starting his ass every single game.
Man, the Patriots, I don't know how they let this guy go, man.
Yeah.
I have not understood it, and they have not
Well,
been able
look,
to replace that type of production. Very good player.
I mean, they let Jakobi Meyers go. They let Jonnu Smith go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are players that are thriving in new destinations, which is kind of weird. I think that they're having problem with the talent on the team because they do have talent. They're just
Yep.
having a
They don't
tough time
develop it well.
exploiting it. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not
they don't
exactly.
develop
Especially
it.
wide receivers. They don't like we
Oh,
mentioned Demario
disastrous.
Douglas and like at length on this podcast, and even Butte, I forget his first name,
Keyshawn
Kashawn.
Butte. Javon Baker was supposed to be
Polk,
like this
yeah.
Polk
revelation.
was supposed to be like whatever, like
Nikhil
they
Harry.
drafted him pretty high.
Yeah,
Nikhil
but
Harry
that
too.
one- that
They
one
drafted
was
him
the-
high, Nikhil Harry.
Yeah,
He was
but
a
you know
first-round
what?
pick.
Nikhil Harry was a bust everywhere he went. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna fault him on.
Also, he was
he shouldn't have been drafted
Yeah,
first round.
they should have picked either Deebo Samuel or AJ.
But that just goes to show you that they're not very good at scouting wide receivers, right? Because either they let them go and they become amazing, or they draft bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nacc, I believe you have another wide receiver for your second love.
I do. It's our boy Nick Westbrook-Ikhine.
Finally.
Versus the Jaguars this week, actually. So he's been grabbing all the headlines in Tennessee lately with 7 touchdowns in his last 8 games. 1 every 2.5 receptions, which is unheard of. He only has 20 receptions on the seasons, and wide receivers across the league are scoring a TD on every 12.7 receptions. So 1 every 2.5 receptions is like, it doesn't even make any sense. He's also now seen a 20% target share in 3 straight games, and his production is officially no longer a fluke. He gets a Jaguar secondary in week 14, giving up the third most points to wide receivers. And again, with Byemageddon part 2 coming up, Westbrook-Ikhine is in a perfect spot start. And I think he keeps the TD trend rolling this week.
Yeah, I guess the Jags for week 14, week 17. I'm one. You know, you're gonna have to wonder if outside of Byemageddon, he's gonna be an every week start. It's crazy with that efficiency though. Like PPR, he's not helping you out, but touchdowns are touchdowns.
Well, that's what I say. He's definitely look. He could be a must start, but he's also a very volatile boomer bust player, right? With only 20 receptions on the year.
Well, not really, because if he's scoring a touchdown 7 of 8 games, it's just boom.
Well, it's no longer
for sure.
anymore.
But that week that it burns you, you're gonna be so upset, you know. But it's not gonna happen this week.
And he's gonna crush somebody's fantasy dreams in week 15 when he scores 2 touchdowns against the Titans again on like 4 catches. Like it's just gonna ruin somebody's 100%. Someone's gonna be like, I lost to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Like for sure, it's gonna happen.
There's gonna be some broken televisions across America.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Nacc. Fab, tell us who you have as your first love.
Derek Carr at the New York Giants. The Giants are the new Panthers. You start everyone against them. The Giants D have not recorded an interception since week 1. Week 1, they give up the 15th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. It's not a whole lot, but this week and for the rest of the season, they'll be without their all-pro defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence, who dislocated his elbow this last week. Carr has been playing pretty well since he came back from injury, averaging about 18.3 fantasy points per game. So in a 2 QB Superflex league, he's a great streaming option this week with so many QBs on bye. I like him a lot too. Yeah. Because the Giants defense is not good. And they're not playing well. They're not really rushing the quarterback like they're expected to be. Dexter Lawrence not being there at that line.
Kayvon Thibodeau has had a very bad season. I was looking at some of the advanced metrics, and it has not looked good for him either.
He's last year had a good season. This year though, he was injured too. He's only been back a few games. Brian Burns has been good, but apart from that, like everyone expected the Giants D line to be like top 5 in the NFL.
Too, I feel Burns has been quiet. They made that nice splash, and I feel like he's been very quiet.
He's been quiet relative to his expectations. He's been okay, but you expected him to be putting up like double-digit sack numbers every week, and he hasn't been doing that.
The Giants are another team that players leave there and do better.
Lately, yeah.
Like
there was a post. At every single one of their offensive linemen, their defensive ball.
Will Henderson,
Will Hernandez had a 93-yard pick 6. Cat Williams, like, did the guys
Cat Williams,
the comedian?
No, the defensive lineman.
There's no way that's his name.
His nickname is Cat. His
Joey nicknames.
But my point is, like, guys like Julian Love, he just had like a really big game recently. Will Hernandez,
dude, like it's just
soon to be Daniel Jones, right?
Imagine
if Daniel Jones ends up being an actual competent quarterback for the Vikings going forward, I will not be surprised. A lot of it has to do with coaching and the environment and all that stuff, and he's in a great place to succeed. To be honest with you, everything's on him, and it just wasn't a good environment for him at the end.
They've done it for the past 30 years, man. Like
ever since they got rid of Tom Coughlin, that whole organization has not been the same, and it will never be the same, unfortunately, until we get some of his credibility, which we won't get. But let's just keep on moving on.
Yeah. Speaking of potential reclamation QBs, I believe you have another one as your second love.
Fresh off a 300 AOC at Tampa Bay, fresh off a 340-yard outing where he threw 2 touchdowns and almost beat the refs. The Chiefs. Mr. Congresswoman faces a very fantasy-friendly matchup as the Raiders face the Bucs in Tampa Bay for Week 14. But apart from the matchup and recent performance, the Raiders have, dare I say, legit offensive weapons that AOC has been able to get the ball to. So Bowers is a monster. We all know that. Generational tight end, breaking records everywhere. Jakobi Meyers, like Nacc alluded to, has been on fire lately and making the Pats, regret their decision for letting him walk. In a 2 QB league, he's a comfortable starter, and you can expect some high-end QB2 performance during Bye-Mageddon. Honestly, I was reading up on the guy. People are even expecting him to put up like some low-end QB1 numbers. might be a little bit too rich for my blood, but at the same time,
Less.
at
Pump
the
the
same
break
time,
on
Yeah,
I
QB1
think
seriously,
and
man.
we
AOC.
are
I don't know, man.
I don't know
we
about
are.
this one,
Let me
man.
finish. We are in a recency
He's the
biased
Gronk and the Aaron Hernandez of
of quarterbacks
but Fab
facing
believes in his
Tampa Bay.
bit.
Facing, come on, man. Let me take my bit here for a second.
This is truth. This is
It's a
truth.
great matchup. Awesome weapons. I like AOC honestly. In a 2 quarterback league, you can start him as your QB2 comfortably.
Did you even say his full name?
Aidan O'Connell.
But did you say his full name in the?
I did not. I said AOC at Tampa Bay. Yep.
Very helpful.
You're welcome. Aidan O'Connell, ladies and gentlemen.
Very, very helpful. Yeah, his
Not to be
mustache.
confused with the congresswoman from.
This man has to shave his mustache. So like it's.
This man does not look
it's
like he has an
very-
Irish last name. This man does not look like he has an Irish last name.
I
He looks Latino.
know. Seriously.
You gotta do something with that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, look, it's Tampa, so we pick on Tampa. You have to pick on Tampa.
Dude, he put up
Let's-
340 yards against the Chiefs. Like, I know it's a
Word.
divisional game and all that stuff, but something to be said too. The Chiefs do
Chiefs
have a very
defense
good
has been
secondary.
a little bit blah lately.
Lately,
I have to say.
yeah, for sure.
Well, the Bucs defense have been blah all season, so I'll take that.
Hey, they were giving up the most points just recently, and it's
And
now
now it's the
gone up
second
to
most points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they've gotten a little better.
Speaking of giving up a lot of
Marginally.
passing yards, I have Will Levis as my love. Will Levis versus Jacksonville. Will Levis is on fire, and your defense is terrified. Billy Jeans gets a Jaguars defense that is allowing the most fantasy points per game to QBs over the last 4 weeks. And Levis himself has indeed been on fire. 17.5 points the last 4 weeks. The QB 19, as mentioned, which is a virtual must start in 2 QB leagues. Again, ranking above the likes of Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield. Additionally, the Jags are allowing the 5th most passing air yards, and the Titans have been one of the better vertical teams over the last 3 weeks, with Levis being 5th in air yard completion. So fire up Will Levis, fire up Billy Jeans. I think he's going to have a big game.
Who
Get
calls him Billy Jeans?
Get that Westbrook-Ikhine stack.
Billy Jeans, the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast, they always call him Billy Jeans.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Billy Jean.
You guys don't know
but-
that? Will you guys remember Will Griggs on fire? Your defense is terrified from Northern Ireland in the Euro. No.
Yes.
Na 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 na.
Yes.
We gotta do a remix
yes.
for that song.
Yeah, that song has played
Well,
for a lot
Milan
of
used
soccer
use
teams.
that.
Yeah.
Use that. Yeah, Milan used
Yeah,
it.
use it,
Pioli's
use it.
on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been remixed.
Just
to
last
death.
thing,
Yeah,
it was
of course.
Leonard Williams that ran it in for a pick six.
I figured.
Leonard Cat Williams.
Okay, so it wasn't Cat Williams. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Dude, you got to use his real
Big
name.
Cat.
There, man.
His nickname is Big Cat.
Second love. So piggybacking on Nacc's high efficiency player, I'm going to go with another high efficiency player that has been on fire lately. Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
It's all these guys with 3 names.
I have to say that so slowly to make sure I hit it right. Marquez Valdes-Scantling at the Giants. So there's no better week to ride the hot hand of MVS than week 14 against a Giants team that has virtually quit on the season. Scantling has scored 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games on 13 catches. Quick math, Fab, what is that?
4 catches on 4 in what? At 4 times 4 is
Come
4
on.
times 6 is what is 24. 14 catches is.
I'm gonna have to cut this out of the clip. He's had a resurgence as Derek Carr's main deep threat. The Giants are 11th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers over the last 2 weeks, which is a solid mark. But considering the Byemageddon bloodbath and limited options, and MVS being the second coming of Marquez Colston, there's a roadmap to have him locked in as a WR3. Also, this is a week to start my guy, Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson. Start Juwan Johnson at tight end with Taysom Hill out.
It's 4 out of 13 catches. It's a 30% TD rate on every single catch, give or take. That's what you wanted. Be a little more specific, man. Come on. Work with
You're
me
the
here.
finance guy, bro. Come on.
Work with me here.
So those are our loves for the week. Nacc, kick us off with the first hate, please.
Yeah, first hate of the week is going to be Aaron Rodgers at the Dolphins. So Ulbrich is sticking with Rodgers and reconfirmed he is the starter going forward. Although it sure does seem like the Jets will likely do a page 1 reset in the offseason. Rodgers getting a chance to see if there's a team that's willing to take a shot on him next season. Unfortunately, it's not the ideal spot for him in week 14. He has not topped 200 yards passing in 3 straight weeks and has only 4 total TDs in that span. Miami gives up the 3rd fewest points to QBs this season, and Rodgers' struggles should continue. He's going to be hard to bench in 2 QB and Superflex League with the aforementioned looming Byemageddon, but if you have a better option, I wouldn't hesitate to bench him this week.
The enigma that is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we need more Aaron Rodgers in our life, right? Like
Yeah.
he needs to have
Can't
a
wait.
Netflix documentary.
Can't wait.
I don't. I mean,
Can't wait.
his PR agent is amazing. Is amazing. How this guy got a docu-series on how he spends 3 days, I don't know, like smelling incense or whatever it is. Anyways.
Ayahuasca.
Is that what it's called? Ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca. He's fab.
Who gives?
He's gonna, aside from the Jaguars in week 15, he's gonna be a sit for the rest of the year, I think. Fab, you still own him? You still own him?
I have to start him this week.
He doesn't have
but after
great
this,
matchups going forward.
He's looking at my bench for the rest of the season, and hopefully none of my quarterbacks get
not for nothing, but
injured.
CJ Stroud hasn't been that much better, right?
Actually, I think Aaron Rodgers had more points than CJ Stroud this week.
Yeah.
By a hair, mind you. But
QB laden episode for Love Hate. Who's your second, Nacc?
Yeah, my second one is going to be Bryce Young at the Eagles. Like we mentioned, he's looked rejuvenated of late, especially after the bye where he's averaged 21 points per game. Seems like all he needed was a little time, a timeout or a step back, and now Canales kind of looks like a genius, and the Panthers seem to be back on track with their QB of the future. His completion percentage is up to 58%, so close to that hovering 60 that we mentioned before that we need to see these QBs have. And he has 6 TDs and 3 INTs, or 7 total TDs and 3 INTs in his last 5 games. However, he gets a brutal matchup in Week 14 on the road versus Philly. Philly D giving up the 5th fewest points to QBs. Sure, they just gave up 27 and 22 respectively to Lamar Jackson and Matt Stafford, but Bryce Young is not in that category just yet. So look for the sophomore to struggle against a suffocating Eagles secondary.
This is going to be the game. If he has a big game, like I think we could really finally say like this guy has turned the corner.
100%.
There's a very good opportunity for him to be
see
good.
it.
Yeah, I
don't see it here on a bad spot on the road.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was at home, I'd give him a better opportunity, but on the road with those Philly fans, I don't know. I think it could be a rough outing.
When you have cornerbacks like Cooper DeJean laying out Derrick Henry. DeJean.
But are you doing it on purpose?
I can't get any single name right, ladies and gentlemen. I can't. I'm trying out here, okay? It's hard out here in the trenches. Doing what I can. My goodness. Cooper DeJean? Really? DeJean?
Yes. He's not from Quebec.
DeJean is not a safety. Isn't that the song?
And Reed Blankenship, too. Wasn't the kicker's name Rigo Blankenship?
Rodrigo,
yeah.
Rodrigo, yeah.
Reed Blankenship. Fab. What do you have as your first hate? My God.
Why are you laughing, Roger?
Deshaun. Cooper Deshaun John.
Cooper Deshaun. Jonnu Smith versus the Jets. Yes, Jonnu has been lights out since Miami came back from their bye in week 6. Since Tua has started throwing underneath a lot more, he's averaging 17 fantasy points per game in that stretch and has at least 22 points in 3 straight games. Mega numbers. But he's also faced a very friendly tight end schedule that actually stops in week 14. The Jets are a super stingy defense versus tight ends, and only one tight end has scored a touchdown versus them all year, way back in week 6, which was Dawson Knox. They haven't allowed a tight end to get more than 6 receptions or 70 receiving yards or more than 12 fantasy points. So I don't think this trend bucks this week. I think Jonnu finishes outside the top 12 for tight ends.
Yeah, he has a brutal stretch in terms of teams that are very good with tight ends. The Jets, Houston, and then San Francisco. So those are some of the better teams against tight ends. So we'll be interested.
Yeah, and the Jets have faced some pretty decent tight ends too. It's not as if they faced only scrubs, right? Like Trey McBride has at 11.10 fantasy points, which is the most.
And to your point, he played Arizona. He only had 6 fantasy points, and in Buffalo had 9.6. So yeah, I have Jonnu Smith in Bush League. Obviously, I have to start him, but I think this is actually a really good call. Second hate, Fab?
Deebo Samuel versus Chicago. So we mentioned it already. Obviously, the Niners are a bit of a dumpster fire right now. 3 straight games of 22 receiving yards or less for Deebo. Hasn't had more than 5 receptions since week 8. Same for double-digit targets. He hasn't had any of those since week 8 either. It's expected to be feast or famine with Deebo, but ultimately it's been starvation. And now he goes up against Chicago Bears D, who give up the second least fantasy points to wide receivers. He's no longer the first option or even the second option on that offense. And he just doesn't look like himself either, to be honest. In a week with so many buys, you might not be able to bench Deebo, but if you can, I think you should.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's starving. Like he looks chunky.
Yeah, well, yes. In that sense, yes, I agree with you. He's
heavy.
a little bit more on the chunky side.
I think he looks fed up too. Like there's something like I know we mentioned a few weeks back he had that outburst on the sideline where he went after the long snapper and then the kicker and like went to blame them for like missing a kick, like where it's like we've heard from like players and it's like it's taboo, right? Like kicker knows what job he has to do, like if he misses a kick, yeah, it sucks, but like you're not going to go scream at him. Kicker doesn't come screaming at you when you drop a pass, right? So I don't know. I personally think his days are numbered. I think it's his last season with San Francisco. I know we mentioned that they're going to have some cap troubles, and I think honestly, I think they'll be pretty happy to get rid of him because he seems to be kind of a bit of a distraction over there.
Yep, time for some roster turnover.
That, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Fab. For my first hate for week 14, I have Geno Smith against the Cardinals. So the Cardinals defense has quietly emerged as one of the top units in the league, allowing an average of 8.5 fantasy points to QBs over the last 4 weeks. Meanwhile, Smith, though keeping the Seahawks atop the division, has struggled in fantasy terms. He's the QB 30 over the last 3 weeks and has managed only 2 multi-touchdown games this season, the last coming in week 9 against the Rams, a game where he also threw 3 picks. Early in the season, Seattle leaned heavily on the pass. Geno was logging 40-plus attempts in 4 of his first 6 games, including 2 with 50-plus pass attempts. Over the last 6 games, that number has dropped to an average of 31 attempts. Unfortunately, I'm stuck starting Geno in our Bush League 2 QB League. With Budda Baker and the Cards defense playing lights out, I'm keeping my expectations low with Geno Smith.
Yeah. Are they playing in
at Arizona?
At Arizona too.
Yeah, they played
division game too, so
huge game,
and
mm-hmm.
it's massive for the division, so it could be. I think I like this call.
Yep. Second hate is Tucker Kraft at Detroit Thursday Night Football. Bar none, the Detroit Lions are the best defense against tight ends in the league. They have allowed the least amount of catches, yards, and touchdowns allowed to the position. On the season, they are allowing a league best 3.5 points per game to tight ends. That mark is an even lower 2.8 points over the last 2 weeks. Tucker Kraft had a great game against the Dolphins last week to the tune of 13.8 fantasy points from 6 catches and 78 yards, but this is a clear matchup to avoid. The Lions run the highest amount of man coverage in the league, and Kraft has a 47 rating in PFF grade on man. Go for guys like Luke Shoemaker versus the Bengals, Noah Gray versus the Chargers, or even Tommy Tremble against the Eagles instead of Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer call. Like you can't even start this guy. This guy is must bench TV right now.
It's tough to it was tough to find who on the Packers maybe I didn't like. I mean, the Lions is really tough.
Yeah.
Like you don't know, right? Like anyone could break out from a game-to-game basis.
Yeah.
But this is the one that seemed like it would make the most sense. But this could be a high scoring game.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tucker Kraft
against the Bengals.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tucker Kraft actually gets into the end zone. Like he did get 6 targets last game against Detroit. I mean, now they're in Detroit, so I think the home crowd might go against him a little bit. But I would not be surprised if Tucker Kraft gets, because he doesn't need a lot of receptions to get a touchdown. The guy gets like 2 receptions. One of them is touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. And this is, I don't know if I see the same way as you on this one, Raj. And maybe I'm only saying this because I'm going to pick him up off waivers and start him. But
and shout out to my brother-in-law who's going to actually be at the game.
Oh, nice.
No, very nice.
Yep.
Is he a Detroit fan or a Green Bay fan?
No, he's not. He's a Steelers fan by association.
By association.
Yeah.
You forced him into it.
I took him to a game a couple years ago, and I made him a Steelers fan.
That's awesome. Amazing. So I'll do it for us, guys. Thanks for sticking with us for another episode of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Once again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all social medias. Please download and listen to the episode on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Thanks for spending time with us. I'm Raj. He's Fab. And there's Nacc. We are out.
I don't want to put in a waiver claim now for Kraft.
Go ahead. Do it. Be my guest. Do it.
Because I know I'll get them over you, right? Just can't screw you over.
You have nothing left, Fab?
I got $0 left. I spent all my money, and I'm 10th on the waiver wire. But listen, there's even Kyle Pitts available, right? So I have my tight end options out there, so don't worry about it.
0 points in week 13.
And listen, same amount of points as Will Dissly. What do you want me to do?
And Quentin Johnson.
Oh yeah, that was brutal.
Misery loves company.
2 weeks in a row, Fab. 2 weeks in a row, Fab starts a Charger and gets a donut.
Yeah. And against you, I would have won. If I would have had just enough points against you, Quentin Johnson, I would have won that week. Against Roger, I had no chance at all.
I think I mentioned this last week. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, you're like, you're like Mike Tomlin, man. Jesus, get something a little more recent in this century.
It's not Mike Tomlin.
I said you're like Mike, whatever. Tomlinson's over here. Tomlinsons.
Tomlisms.
You gonna watch Hard Knocks? Nope.
That's now?
I sure am.
That's at 9?
No, that was his soundbite at the press conference.
Yeah, they asked him. Absolutely not.
Yeah, right, man. This guy.
Right. Respect him.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Goodbye.
Cooper DeJean.
Peace. Dijon.